This podcast is sponsored by Calvary Healing Center, providing quality addiction treatment since 1964. Calvary's full continuum of care works to heal the entire individual, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. They work with patients and families to regain control of their lives and bring long-lasting sobriety that extends beyond their care. Their compassionate team is here to help. If you or somebody you know is interested in learning more, please visit www.calvarycenter.com. Hey everyone, it's Brandon Lee, host of the podcast Escaping Rock Bottom. I have a great guest with me today. Her experience, strength, and hope, I hope, will inspire you to stay on the road to recovery. If you're looking for help, Megan with Calvary Healing Center is here to answer a lot of those questions. She actually works in the treatment industry at Calvary right here in Central Phoenix, and she'll be able to answer a lot of the questions that I know many of you have been emailing me over the past several months, especially right now with this ongoing pandemic, and it just feels like there's no end in sight right now. So I'm going to bring Megan into the conversation. First off, thank you so much for being here and being willing to share your story.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay, Megan, I always ask people, take me back to the beginning. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Phoenix, Arizona in August of 1990. I was born to two people who were in active addiction. My father frequented many of the prison systems here. My mother was addicted to crystal meth, so that made for an interesting childhood. Luckily, throughout my life, my mother was able to successfully raise 3 children.
Even still using meth?
Well, she stopped using meth. We were quite the relocators. She was a geographical change specialist. So
many addicts are, by the way.
Right, yeah, that's what we do.
Disease.
Yeah,
like, this
yeah.
isn't working out for me.
Right,
I need to move into another state.
Exactly. So we relocated quite frequently. Throughout that, she didn't so much stay sober as she did a lot of the switching game. So it became alcohol, marijuana, stuff like that, but she did her best. She didn't have the sort of resources I had available.
What was it like to be a child to a mom who was addicted to a drug like meth?
I think that whenever you are born into chaos, you are not aware that it is chaos. Interesting. Yes. That for me was the norm. There was we didn't have a lot of funds available. There was a lot of instability. Between me and my brothers, we were each other's real support system. And we adapted to our environment.
Megan, I'm of the belief, because I've been around recovery for so long, and I work as a consultant for another treatment center that is really based in trauma. Mm-hmm. And I am just so of the belief that 9 out of 10 addicts out there, that I believe that trauma is the gateway. Trauma Absolutely. Is the gateway to alcoholism, is the gateway to drug addiction, is just the gateway to addiction, any sort of addiction, whether Absolutely. It be food or even gambling, because it's a way to numb ourselves from trauma. Myself being molested repeatedly as a child, I didn't understand why at the age of 15 I became a sex addict. Why at the age of 15 did I become a cocaine addict when I was born and raised in a really wealthy part of the country in Orange County, California, went to private school, had all the resources available to me. It made no sense at age 15 how I became that. Well, childhood trauma untreated eventually will come out sideways. And the reason why I bring that up is because you may not have known any different as a child to a meth addicted mother, but that is still a traumatic event.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. I became a self-medication specialist. It's so crazy how it manifests differently, and it shows in each of my siblings and myself that a part of our personality, it was necessary to escape that. Once you become aware of your surroundings, you can't deny that there's something wrong.
So where did life start to go a little sideways for you?
Oh man, junior high. I had this weird need to completely recreate my personality. Every time we relocated, I was like, this is a chance. This is who I'm going to be. And in junior high, I decided I want to be a badass. And I wasn't built for that. But I don't know. It was this weird part of my ego that was manifesting in different ways, that I had become so used to hiding something that now I needed something to create to fill that space. So I started experimenting, and I had this weird habit of lying. I lied about whether or not I was familiar with drugs, whether or not I was familiar with boys, whether or not I had been in fights before. So it started manifesting pretty early, and I started really wanting to experiment with different outlets because there was this part of my personality that needed to be expressed in that way.
It's interesting because that, God, I can relate so much to that. Junior high school was when I started to bring booze to school. Yeah. I was soaking orange slices in vodka and getting my friends drunk at school. I was stealing it's like those alcoholic drinks that are like fruit flavored. I can't think of them. But anyway, I'd bring those to school.
Like MD 2020.
Totally. Like those little fruit drinks that have seltzer water in them, but have a ton of alcohol. Wine coolers. I used to bring wine coolers to junior high school to get people drunk. And because I became a chameleon, right? I created these versions of myself so nobody could get to know the real me.
Exactly.
Because in junior high school, I knew I was gay. And I was an athlete, even in high school, like a successful athlete, but I knew I was gay. And so I created these different personas to deflect people from getting to know the real me. In my adulthood, see all these tattoos? I'm covered like Prison Break. I got these all while I was in my active addiction, very young in my life, because I wanted people to focus on this. I literally had put a layer on my skin.
Absolutely.
To detract people from getting to know the real me. This was all to create an image of toughness.
Yes.
An image to be like, I'm a badass.
Right.
But inside here, I was this like gay little boy and was like this broken little soul.
Oh. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. I always thought like I'm a duck. On the outside, I'm really calm, but under the water, my feet are going, But yeah, I fell into it pretty quickly. The first time that I even tried any mind-altering substance, a lot of people I hear say that was it. Something clicked in their brain. They knew this is what they wanted to do forever. I drank alcohol, and I remember specifically thinking there has to be a shortcut. I don't like being bloated. I don't like feeling nauseous, and I don't like drinking 3 or 4 of these because that's all it took at the time to feel something. I want to skip that. Where is the easier way to get the feeling that I want to achieve? And that's where, starting to look for prescription painkillers or smoking marijuana, or, I was really, really open-minded to trying anything, but I was looking for that thing that made me feel calmness, acceptance, to quiet what was really happening.
So let's go to what drugs, can I ask, like what drugs did you like try, experiment with, and what was like the drug that really kind of maybe brought you down?
Okay, so I experimented with everything from psychedelics to amphetamines to, in the end, what really got me, and I can't tell you if it's based on, withdrawal symptoms, like a necessary need for it,
right,
but it was those prescription painkillers, which inevitably it's an economical choice to just switch to heroin. It was cheaper. It worked. It got rid of those withdrawals. And then it became, I don't know about you, but with drug use to me, I was trying to find the right mixture of drugs to feel normal.
Totally.
So it was a balancing act of heroin to stay well and crystal meth to get my errands done.
For
and
sure.
Xanax to sleep. And forget.
That was kind of like my
Yeah.
foray too. Mine was meth addiction, and mine was always fueled by sex. I
Yes.
think obviously because of the early childhood sexual trauma,
Oh,
you
sure.
know, was already like a little lit flame, right? The sex addiction part of it, meth just was like pouring gasoline on that fire, and then it would just explode. So it would be like meth for the sex, and then the Xanax and the Lunestas and the Ambien in order for me to sleep, right?
Yep.
It was always a drug for some certain function of my life. I had
Exactly.
friends who were project tweakers. Like on meth, and I'm like, you didn't have sex?
I just want to clean my closet.
For real. No, but for real.
Yes.
And I'm like, wait, you just did meth and you're cleaning your house? What is wrong with you? I do meth and I'm out having sex for 72 hours, you know, on that kind of thing. But I was the same way, right? There's always a medication for a different part of the day, and eventually brought me, you know, to my knees, and it all came crashing. What did that rock bottom look like for you?
I had so many different versions of rock bottom. I got pregnant whenever I was 22 years old, and it was a very unexpected pregnancy. I had been with my partner for a long time at that point. He was my running partner, you know. He was my confidant in rock bottom. And it was the most unfortunate time to find out that you're going to be bringing a human being into the world. We were not capable of keeping the lights on. We were not capable of paying our water bill. We had a broken window. And I remember he was in construction. So we were stealing copper wire from job sites to pawn it to feed this addiction. It was a really not very pretty picture. And I found out I was expecting. And my first thought is, I can't do this. I can't be a mother. This isn't what I dreamt about when I was a little girl. And his first thought was, this is going to save us. This is going to be the reason we change. And throughout my pregnancy, I am white knuckling it. I did not want to be the person who couldn't stop doing drugs long enough to bring a human into the world. And I'm trying really hard. You know, I am not somebody who lacks compassion. I was trapped, and my partner could not stop using the drugs, and that became turmoil for us. And in the midst of my pregnancy, he took his own life, and I believe that was because he didn't see being able to conquer his addiction. And I think that was just the last straw for him. So then I'm pregnant. I can't go back into our home. I'm at this point where my belief is that if I use drugs and I lose this baby, at least I can commit suicide too. At least I can get out of this. I was homeless throughout my pregnancy. I frequented a lot of motels on the I-17, which was not a good time. I didn't see a way of getting out. I have never, ever considered myself to be somebody that would end up in a situation like that, but I was. You know, drugs completely altered the woman that I thought I was going to be one day. And I was scared. And a lot that came with my addiction was that shame. That shame of if anybody knew the truth, even people who might be able to help me, if they knew the truth, I couldn't escape that image. You know, that was important to me. And I didn't seek help. I was staying with my father at the time, and we did what a lot of addicts do. If I have this concoction of drugs, I can get off of these drugs. If I have so many Suboxone or so many, Percocets instead of heroin, if I can just wean myself off at home, if I can beat the withdrawal symptoms, the battle is won. And unfortunately, there's so much more to it. So I weaned myself off during pregnancy. I gave birth to this little boy by a miracle. That's the only definition I can give it. I got to take this little boy home, but it didn't stop there. inevitably, I was still stuck with myself. I was still walking around with untreated trauma, walking around with an itch that I needed to scratch. And despite the want to be a mother, to do everything that I thought I was capable of doing, I ended up right back where I was. And this time I had a little boy being dragged along with me. And that was my rock bottom.
Did you go to treatment?
Yes, I did.
You did?
Yes.
Okay.
Several
times.
Yes.
Yeah. But here's the thing. That's not unique.
Yeah.
People need to understand, and I'm so glad you're so open about sharing your story, because I think sometimes society thinks that, well, we send him to treatment, he should be fine. And the fact of the matter is people need to understand how long of a process sometimes it takes to rewire our brains from traumatic past.
Absolutely.
It's not just a one-shot 30-day treatment. You're done. You're cured, out the door. If it was that way, we wouldn't have addiction as a problem. We would just send every addict to 30 days treatment. They'd be done. Next line
Sold.
up.
Yeah.
It's not that way.
Right.
And every individual is different. And every traumatic experience and the level of trauma within somebody is just different. Sometimes it takes somebody a few years in order to string a year together. Sometimes it doesn't take a few years at all for somebody to get it.
Right.
But we can't, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach to every single person.
Right.
And just because somebody doesn't make it through treatment the first time doesn't mean we should give up on them and their hope for them. So you eventually, as we kind of transition from the war stories into where you're at now, because I really want to pick your brain about life for you today. You work at Calvary Healing Center. What do you do at Calvary?
I work with direct patient care. I do everything from observation rounds to progressing or charting their progress. I work with intervening in those moments of, I'm feeling trapped, I need to get out of here. It's really an honor to work at Calvary for somebody who didn't see anything past what they had.
There's a unique thing, and it's really, I only see it really within the recovery industry, is that a majority of the people who work at treatment facilities are recovered addicts themselves. Like, it could be anywhere 80 to 90% of all staff at a treatment center has experience in recovery. There is no other line of work where that is true. There just is not. And
I think that line of work requires a certain level of empathy. It really does.
It does, and that's where it leads me to this part of the conversation, because when I was on life support twice in 2 weeks, the second time they finally sent me upstairs to the mental health unit, and who I thought I was talking to a doctor or a psychiatrist ended up not being. And within 15 minutes, this man was able to break through to me in a way that nobody else had. What I came to later find out was that he's a recovered meth addict. 15 years sober. He saw right through me. He cut right through me because he had walked in my shoes. No therapist, no psychiatrist, no doctor will be able to cut through to another addict than a former recovered addict. Because we can look at somebody and go, no, I get you. I get how dark that is. I was there. And just that experience allows people like you, Megan, to cut through and really make a difference in somebody's life. And I would just love your perspective on what it's like in that realm.
It is so... The way that we can connect with another addict is mind-blowing. We all come from so many different walks of life, and all we have to share is this one uniting part of us. And all of a sudden we can pull each other from the absolute depths of hell. And seeing somebody else make it gives us the confidence. I mean, I promise you, most people in active addiction are yearning for a way out. That is not what we intended for ourselves. And one person making it gives so much hope that maybe we can have a different lifestyle too.
There's that level of empathy and that level of compassion that truly comes from another addict, because when an addict comes to me and they're struggling and they're losing everything, my first inclination is to hug them and say, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I know.
Yeah.
Somebody who doesn't have that experience and an addict comes to them, sometimes the reaction is, well, get your shit together.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Why don't you just stop?
Right? Just two totally different ways of approaching the same situation. Yeah. It is compassion and empathy, what addicts who are trying to stop need. Mm-hmm. What are you guys doing over at Calvary Healing Center that you think is so crucial and so important to get somebody on the pathway to recovery?
First of all, I think that there is a level of community at Calvary that they have built where most people who work there, like you were saying, are former patients, people from the rooms, people from recovery, and we are allowed the freedom and the space to bring that experience in and to work with people and have the capacity to be honest. I think that having the ability to be honest with your patients, could you imagine if your oncologist had cancer and could walk through that experience with you as somebody who's beaten it? I think that brings a whole different perspective to what we get to do.
It does. You know why? Because it's like an inspiring. People can see what hard work can actually do.
Right.
Somebody can see Megan and be like, wait, you used to be a meth, or an opiate addict, and you were addicted to pain pills. You were living off the I-17 at motels up and down, like pregnant, like what? And now you're sitting here.
Exactly. I mean, I overdosed at Calvary. So whenever I sat down for that interview, every part of me was like, why would they choose me? And it was pretty life-changing to say, that's exactly why we choose you. To hear that, that was experience enough. I don't even think most of us dream about having a career. We just want to be sober. And then getting that opportunity, my heart's in it. My heart is in what I do.
How do you think I'm really big. I always say it is my life's purpose to end the stigma when it comes to mental health, because that stigma is what is killing people.
Absolutely.
The stigma, is what is sending people into overdoses and is preventing them from reaching out and getting help. There are so many working professionals. Okay, I'm not talking about homeless people. We need to end that stigma. Drug addicts are not homeless people. Yeah. Yes, do homeless people, is there some mental illness there? Yes. The majority of drug addicts are not homeless. Okay, let's just accept that.
And I think it's important to say a lot of homeless people weren't born homeless.
Correct.
We are people that come from all different walks of life and are completely defeated.
So how do we begin to end the stigma around mental health? To allow people the freedom to reach out and ask for help, to be able to go to treatment without the worry of people are going to view me as mentally weak. My bosses are going to look at me as, well, you're not dependable. You have to go to treatment.
Right.
How do we change that mindset?
I think it comes with a whole different, first of all, the awareness, what we are doing today, being able to set that shame aside and to say, look, I've been there, I've done it. I live a fully functioning, beautiful life now. Second of all, the acceptance, the social acceptance, having people advocate for you to get the help that you need rather than scowl because you needed it in the first place is a really good place to start.
I love that because you know what? I'm a news anchor, right?
Right.
There's a stereotype of what society thinks a news anchor should be. Stiff, a square, all those things. I shouldn't have tattoos. Like I feel like I've kind of broken the mold in many of those facets. Yes, I'm covered like Prison Break, like a tattoo. And yes, I'm your news anchor at night. Yes, I'm a recovered meth addict. I'm still your news anchor at night. And like nobody, even in the rooms of AA, there's a stigma about sex addiction. Like still kind of taboo to talk about in a 12-step meeting, to talk about sex addiction. I'm like, dude, come on. Like the more we speak about it, the less weight it gives to it. Right. And it helps other people to come forward. And it's like, yeah, man, I used to be a sex addict, crazy sex addict.
Right.
Big deal.
I think it's a means to an end. Every part of it is being it stems from that trauma that we were talking about, that piece of ourselves that we need to quiet, no matter what viewpoint we come from, all of those things deserve treatment, deserve acceptance.
Where do we go in a place like the pandemic? You and I both know that we have broken records around this country. The data has finally started to be released from 2020. As we said, overdose deaths are up 160%. Folks, like 160% increase of overdose deaths in this pandemic. Isolation is killing addicts. Isolation is killing people. The inability to be with another addict or just be with somebody else. My love language, I've identified it. It is touch. I live alone. I don't have family and I don't have kids. By the grace of God, I'm grateful that I still get to go to work every day.
Yes.
I'm in a job that doesn't allow me to work from home. So that has saved me, being able to go to work and at least see other people and kind of be around other people. How do we navigate right now? Because I know you're seeing it on the front lines, the impact this pandemic is having on people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, some of those overdoses, some of those were my patients. Some of those were my friends. Some of those were people who became dependent on that interaction. That connection is a vital part for us. We require a community to recover. We require it. I can't stress enough, if you are alone, if you are hurting, come to us. We're ready to help you. We are waiting to help you. And it might be the best place for you to be in treatment, to be surrounded by people like you, because using alone is a dangerous thing. That's one of the things I always tell my patients. Carry Narcan, never use alone. Because when we are in the midst of overdose, we don't have the ability to reach out and get help for ourselves. And unfortunately, isolation and addiction, they go hand in hand. So many of us, we don't have a comfortable space to shoot heroin in a safe environment. A lot of us are at home locked in our bathrooms and we aren't found until it's too late.
You know what they say, the opposite of addiction is connection. The opposite of addiction is connection. So what does isolation do, right? It just drives addicts to their graves.
Right. I would so much rather sit on the floor with you and cry with you and hold you in a safe space than hear that you didn't make it. And the beautiful thing is that that's what we are trying to offer. We need people in addiction to have more resources. It's vital to our survival.
It absolutely is. And I tell people too, I'm like, if I could go back in time, which I can't, but if I can, because I can't go back in time, but what I can tell you through my experience is to hopefully educate those who are about to endure on this journey. I wish I could go back and I wish I would have started this road to recovery and treatment. The reason why I did not go to treatment was because I thought I was going to lose my job. Yep. If I went to my bosses when I was a news reporter in Los Angeles, this is what played out in my head. If I go to my bosses and say, I need 30 to 60 days away, I need to go to treatment to reset my life. I played that scenario out, I would have lost my job, lost my home, lost my car, because I would have been weak. Holy cow, wrong mindset to have. Had I built that foundation early on, I think I would have had more success in life, right? Yeah. I was still able to stay sober by just going to meetings, but I was white knuckling.
Oh, yeah.
I was white knuckling. There was no help. There was no one-on-one therapy. There was no EMDR. There was no brain mapping. There was none of that.
Right.
It was just going and hearing other people share their stories. Did I stay sober? Yes, but I was white knuckling. I wish, for like 4 years, I wish I would have started my life in treatment, built a solid foundation for 30 or 60 days, and then started to do the one-on-one therapy, the EMDR, and added 12-step meetings to a full platter, because I am of the AA plus what model.
Right.
Right. Meetings plus what?
Absolutely.
Meetings are not enough. I don't care because like I said, Megan, and there are going to be people in the rooms who are like, yes, it is. Don't tell me it's not. I will tell people this is that, yes, AA plus what? We all need therapy. We all need that outreach. We all have trauma that we have to work through. And sitting in an AA meeting is not going to work through that trauma.
Well, I believe meetings are built for the newcomer to hear that inspiration, to find that connection.
Right.
What do you do once you've been inspired?
Yeah.
What do you do once you create those connections? Then what? Then it's about addressing all of those things that led you to addiction.
Efficacy.
Yeah.
It's efficacy, right? Because
Absolutely.
the goal here is to build a new life sober. Right? It's not just to maintain, like, I made it through the day without a drink or a drug. I'm like, but I want more for you.
Right.
Like, I know they say in the rooms, for some people, just making it through the day without a drink or a drug is a successful day. I'm like, okay. But I want more for them.
Right.
I want that person's life to blossom and bloom.
Yes.
And we can do that, but there's like a menu. So let's look at the menu and let's not just choose one a la carte item.
Right.
And I think a place like Calvary offers that.
That's the beautiful thing. I am so passionate about offering resources, individualized resources. What's going to work for you? You're in a situation where you're a mother and you need to find a sober living environment or a safe environment for you and your children. Let me help you find that. You come from trauma. Let me help you find an outlet for that. You are passionate about sports. I know of a sober softball team. I have, options for groups via social media that might be able to help you if you have a plumbing problem, Like, let's look at all of these different aspects and find what works for you, because it is not a cookie cutter program.
No. And we have to stop treating it as it is.
Yes.
Like, there's not a one size fits all approach to recovery.
Right.
Because every individual is so different, which is why treatment at the beginning of recovery is so vital. They're able to assess and redirect rather than you just trying to do it on your own and figuring out along the way what you might need.
Right.
Because that can actually be detrimental to an addict, because then they lose hope.
Yeah.
Right?
This isn't working. Yeah.
I get that all the time.
Yeah.
I get that. If I could show you my inbox on my Facebook, it's always like, I've done AA meetings. They don't work for me. I'm like, well, did you do AA plus what?
Right.
And it wasn't.
It
stopped at just going to an AA
For some
meeting.
people, it's just that physical aspect makes a world of difference. And I don't know about you, but exercise is not my jam, So if that was it, oh gosh, I'd be in trouble.
Right. So what do we say as we close up here? What do you say to that addict who just a hopeful, inspiring message if they're struggling right now? What's that message today in the world we're living in?
First of all, I have to stress again, never use alone. Never use alone. Carry Narcan. Do not be afraid to reach out. We are waiting. We have all kinds of resources to offer. And there is a better option out there. There's a whole new life out there that's waiting for you, and it's worth pursuing. This doesn't have to be your story. This doesn't have to be where it ends. Let us help you. We are ready and we are waiting.
I love that. Megan, thank you so much. It's no doubt. I mean, no doubt why you work at Calvary and why Calvary hired you. I mean, you're warm, you're empathetic, and I love that. And I love that you work in treatment. Thank you.
Thank you.
For continuing to be that person who's there for when that person is so desperate for help. Yeah, I just appreciate everybody who works in our industry, in the recovery industry. We need it's all hands on deck. I told my bosses at my news station, I'm so grateful that I always, every time I get the opportunity to just say it, I'm so grateful. I work at Arizona's Family, 3TV and CBS 5. There are not many television stations out there. Okay, there are not many television stations out there who would allow their main anchor to be so public about my own addiction. But my station gets it.
Yeah.
They get it that mental health is a crisis that is happening right now. People are dying left and right. And some stations would look at that and be like, we don't want to dirty our image by having our main anchor talk about his own past drug addictions.
Right.
But my station doesn't care, because drug addiction hits every family. Every family it hits. Mental illness is in every family. I don't care if people try to hide it, if they try to, keep it within the family, it affects everybody. So I'm grateful that I have bosses who support me in this podcast, who support me in my life. And I just want more employers out there to support their employees the way my bosses do me. Because if we have that, more people will ask for help.
Yeah.
More people will come forward without shame or without fear that they may lose their job. So thank you for tuning in. As Megan just said, Calvary, their doors are open. Their phone lines are open as well. If you want more information about how to get sober and perhaps go to treatment at Calvary, we're going to provide that information right now. This podcast is sponsored by Calvary Healing Center, providing quality addiction treatment since 1964. Calvary's full continuum of care works to heal the entire individual, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. They work with patients and families to regain control of their lives and bring long-lasting sobriety that extends beyond their care. Their compassionate team is here to help. If you or somebody you know is interested in learning more, please visit www.calvarycenter.com.